All right, so hopefully you now had an opportunity to go out and try to insert a row by yourself via your last assignment, and also displaying the insert, meaning hitting the display in your assignment to actually see that the row was actually added and you can now display it. Hopefully you're doing well with that and you got everything working. The next step of this CRUD discussion that we're going through is the update, okay? And so in this video, we're going to talk about how to do an update to a student in my database, okay? Um, for the most part, what we're basically saying here is I'm going to update and I'm going to do a couple things. One, it should look a little bit familiar with you. I have a drop down, a combo box. I keep calling it a drop down, kind of the synonym for both of them are basically drop downs, combos. I don't know where I got the word term drop down at, but a combo box with every person in there. Okay, and as you see that I have added to my database for my students. All right. And if I wanted to update them, I was going to click on it. And as you see, when I click on it, it populates my form, almost the exact same form, not almost, the exact same form that I had in my insert add student functionality. Okay, and so I kind of copied that over onto this form, that form, and basically used it. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to the database when I click on this and populating it. So I'm kind of doing the same thing you did a few assignments ago, where you clicked on it and you populated some information pertaining to your particular application in a list box. In this case, we're separating it all out into text boxes, combo boxes, and so on to allow our users to change something. Meaning, if I wanted to come in here and we'll say that Joe Burrow now it moved to a new zip code or whatever, and I updated the student, it'd be updated. And if I go look at my display here, let's go find Joe. And there he is. He's now at zip code 77777. Pretty cool. So this is an update, okay? So let's talk about how we do this. Um, all right, so what you saw in my update piece is that I have a combo box. There's a lot of different ways of doing updates, but basically what you gotta do, you gotta update one row at a time within a table. And so what we're going to teach you right now is this concept. There's other ways of finding the person in which you want to update. It could be based upon a grid or something like that. But for what we're doing right now, this works out pretty well. So we need to populate this combo box. You should know how to do that by now. We also need to populate these other combo boxes in city, state, and race. All right. Where would we do that at? Yes, the form load. Here we are right here. So I'm going to do a form load that's going to populate my city, populate my state, populate my race, and then also then populate all the students in there. See how I did that first name, last name, and I got that as student name, and I put that in my display member. So if you were asking the questions maybe from your assignments, there's a way to get the first name and the last name in that combo box. Here's how you do it. I concatenated it, created an alias called student name, and made that my display member, and that works perfectly. All right. So once again, this was on the form load, and I populated all my combo boxes for my update form to do so. Everybody good? Okay. In that, every time I change this, again, something you've already practiced, I change this, it's going to go to the select index change. And what I'm going to do, the only difference here is I'm going to take my selected value, and I'm going to go get my information that I need, all the columns that I need to populate the form. Again, you've already done something very similar to this, so this should not be new. We're just kind of building and building here as we keep going. I'm going to read it. And the only difference is, as you can see here, is that I'm going to, instead of populating a list box, I'm going to take each individual one and put it into the corresponding control on my form. So text boxes for the first name, last name, and address. Excuse me. Combo boxes. I took the foreign keys that were in that row, and I made them the selected value because it worked out perfectly. Remember, I loaded those things, so that selected value should be the exact same thing that I'm looking at, meaning I have the primary key, and so the foreign key, right? The foreign key in that row should be the same thing as the primary key over here based upon the value that I picked. Hope I'm saying that right. You get the whole idea. So if I stored, if I stored primary key two, a foreign key two, that should equate to the value over here that I actually loaded my cities with. Okay. So look how I did that. Pretty cool. So again, my data source all the way down. Obviously, at this point in time, I'm kind of not even walking through how we do this because, again, it's very similar to what we've done before. Okay? There you go. So now I have my form completely populated. And now if I come here and I press my update student and I make 80 changes like I just demonstrated there, what you will do now is come in here. Once again, we'll take all the information, very similar to what we did on our insert, take all the information off, put it into variables, and instead of doing an insert command, we will do a update command, a SQL command, okay? And so once again, you gotta make sure this looks good. You gotta make sure that's encapsulated correctly with the single quotes if it needs them. Obviously on the update, we're not inserting a new row, so we don't need the primary key. We're actually going to use the student ID in this case, which is the primary key, in which we got off the selected value from here, okay, from my student update. So because I had that on there, I have the primary key that was my value member, and I'm going to take that primary key and use it for my update. That's what we're doing, okay? And it all looks good. Once again, I like having this message box here to make sure my update statement looks really good in this case, okay? And so let's go ahead and run this one more time. Update, and let's see. Nope. And so we'll come here, and we'll do my wife here. And we'll change where she lives at. She's dying to move to Cincinnati. So we'll put her to Cincinnati, Ohio, I don't know, 45202. Whoops, 45202. So she was in Florence, Kentucky, 41042. We update the student. As you see here, here's my update statement. You may want to look at this and make sure, see how the single quotes are around Roseanne, Niels, the address, but nothing around the city ID, nothing around the state ID, the zip code, and so on. So this looks like a pretty good, my string looks good, is what I'm trying to say. I went ahead and did it. Update successful. And if I go look at display students, and we come down and we find Roseanne, there she is, now living in Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202. Pretty cool. That's how you do an update. Very similar to the insert. So once you get that one working, the update shouldn't be that hard. Just a different command, basically, a different SQL command. Okay? So a little bit different in regards to how we did it and how we had to find the person, but hopefully everything you've done up to this point led up to this, and hopefully it's a pretty easy thing to do. Now you give it a try.